all. If you've if you know me or you spent any time looking at my Facebook or Instagram, you know that I really dig Rites of Passage work, Vision Fast. Some people call it a Vision Quest. Um, I've been thinking about really narrowing down that type of work into its most simple essence. And what I was struck with is the idea that I think it boils down to, and why I love it so much, is because it boils down to one question that everybody that goes out grapples with. And that question is, who am I? Which is one of those kind of perennial, maybe philosophical questions that people hear, and then they're like, well, I don't really have an answer for that. Or I think we hear that question. If you ponder that question for yourself right now, you get kind of a funny feeling, because we don't have a ready-made answer. We can talk about what we do, and we can talk about what we believe, and we can talk about things that are important to us maybe, but when it comes to answering that question, we sometimes get a little bit stuck. And I was thinking about, there's no way around acknowledging the fact that modern day rites of passage, like a Vision Fast, it definitely draws a lot from really Lakota tradition, they would call the Hamblecha ceremony, where they would take their young people and they would basically put them out in the wilderness up on the mountain for 1 or 2 or 3 days and nights by themselves. And there was a lot of elaborate prayers involved and parts to the ritual. But at the end of the day, that young person was crying for a vision, and the vision was really something to show them who they were, and not for themselves, but who am I, so that when I go back to my people, my village, my family, my community, I know what I'm going to offer them. So it really boiled down to that question of who am I? And in modern rites of passage work, maybe because we are so disjointed in our communities and in our families, and we don't have maybe the same structure as folks did back in the day, we need a little more prompting before we go out on the mountain. And what that looks like in a Vision Fast is we set an intention. And that intention is a chance for some people, for the first time, to start to look at what right now do I have to say about who I am? Have I ever really contemplated that question and come up with a workable answer that feels solid enough and real enough and important enough that it's gonna carry me into the next stage of my journey, whatever that is? Do I know what I can say about myself and know as true, that can make some sort of difference in the work that I do? Whether that be my family, my job, my place in the community. And if we don't have an answer to that, and if we've never really wrestled with that, I think that's a lot of the times where we get stuck. I mean, I'm particularly thinking of maybe of young men, because I work with young men at my school, and we hear all the time about the epidemic of loneliness in young men, and misogyny, and all sorts of kind of just being lost as a young man in this culture. And I wonder if a lot of it comes down to the question of, if you ask one of these young men, well, who are you? Who do you say that you are beyond your ideology, beyond the sport you play, beyond the video games that you play? What gifts do you have? What is it about yourself that brings you joy? What is it about you that you can offer to the world? What is it about you that maybe you've never had the chance to acknowledge out loud? And if we don't know the answer to those questions, and if we've never voiced that out loud, I wonder how we expect to bring it out into the world. I wonder how we expect to not feel lost if we can't begin to answer that basic question. I think a lot of people hear about Rites of Passage work, or they hear about a vision quest, and they think it's some big elaborate thing, and you got to do some huge work, and you have to be going through some huge upheaval in your life, or processing some huge trauma. But I haven't found that to be true. Some people do use it as such, but a lot of people use it to say things like, like, it's okay, like I'm enough just showing up, or I have a voice and it matters, or I feel strong. Those are gifts that we can give to ourselves just by acknowledging them and having them witnessed, and then we can take them out and show them off and do the work we need to do and feel like we have some sort of semblance of, this is who I am right now, and this is what I bring to the world.